out of my room and I'd probably bump into one of my bad days. So.
Oh, 100%. I remember,
escape it.
And I wouldn't say, and again, like this could be quite a nice little sort of link back to this. And again, it's only if you want to talk about it. I'm actually more just interested, but I think it's important to be able to discuss things that have happened that weren't very nice. And I would never have said that I was bullied at Bradfield. I think there's certain times in my life where and again, I'm not saying this to hurt anyone. But I think there has been times in my life where I've been bullied. We'll just put it at that. Not even confine that to school. But essentially, there was a time once where, you know what my house was like. They were very big characters and very great characters. I came back once and they'd taken everything out of my room. Apart from a picture of my family. That was all that I had left. So when I say that to anyone that's listening and wants to know what that is, Millie knows the size of the rooms. They're quite small. But, I mean, she's seen my room that I'm speaking in at the moment, but she hasn't seen the full extent of it. I quite like a lot of stuff, so I had a lot of stuff in my room. But it's quite a small room, and we had, like, a basin in there, did we? Or was that uni?
Yeah, we had a basin to brush your teeth.
There was a basin to brush your teeth, right? So they had taken... And my room in the first year at that school, so I was only there for the last 2 years... was right opposite the shower, and essentially they took out everything apart from this picture. So when I say everything, I mean the mattress, all the sheets, all of my clothes, everything on the side of the desk, the chair. Like, there was nothing in there apart from they had put the picture on the bed where the mattress used to be. That was it, right? Yeah. And I went in there and I just didn't find it funny. And I do now. I think it's absolutely... I personally do. I can see how that would hurt someone else, but that properly, like... I can see that that's hilarious now. I can. But I walked off to, you know, is it the music? Is it? I think it's where the music was, on the tennis centre. And there was this, it was actually the music, I think. And there's this tiny little bit where no one can see you. And take into account, the school we went to was like a village. It was a village. With a lot of people around. And there's not really many places apart from maybe on the field where, like, no one could see you, right?
Yeah.
You're quite exposed, even though it's massive.
Yeah. There's always people walking around as well.
Always people walking around. And even if you went onto one of the sports fields, like, someone could probably see you from afar, just sitting there on your own. So I found this place, and I was like, in my head, I was like, how am I going to go back? Am I going to be really annoyed? Like, am I going to show them that I'm really annoyed and they'll never do it again? Or, like, how am I going to be upset or emotional or whatever? And I went back, and they'd put it all back, right? But no one cared. I was like, oh. Like, I think I came back, and I think Ruben was like, you alright, mate? And I was like, yeah, you? And he was like, yeah. And everything was back exactly how it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, cool. But, do you know what I mean?
About ADHD, I once got told, and it might be my matron at school, but because of my ADHD, I would go hunting for those laughs.
Yeah.
And I actually found myself at a time where maybe my laughs were detrimental to someone else's happiness. And, like, then I'd beat myself up for being nasty, but because it wouldn't have come from a nasty area. But it was, and I'll put my hands up to that. But my matron said to me, a joke's got to be funny both ways.
Yeah.
And that's something that I had to learn from a young age with ADHD, because I was so hectic, I would have not stopped to think that actually might offend someone or that might actually hurt someone. So that was something that I probably learned from not a young age, but had to learn about my ADHD from a age.
Oh, massively. And I think, again, that's just the point I make with my favourite people, because I care about everyone. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this, well, I could be, but I'm doing this podcast to reach everyone. And, you know, even essentially, like, the horrible people. Because the horrible people are only horrible because they're suffering from something, or they have suffered from something.
100%.
And essentially, like, that's a really important point for me, is that it's like, you're so right. Like, you do, like, the perks of whatever you have, whether whether yours is ADHD or mine's bipolar or someone else's is whatever it is, right? I think that's important, is that you have to remember that, oh my goodness me, hold on. That's weird. I'm getting a call. but it doesn't matter. We'll just let it go through. But that noise is a call. Sorry, anyone that's horrified by the beeping. And you probably can't see me right now, Millie, but we'll...
No, you just paused, but all good.
Yeah, we're back. So, whoever that was on the phone, it was... I don't know, but we'll work it out. Yeah, I think that's the point is, yeah, you have to. And I think that's just a reminder of having to tailor whether they're the good and the bad parts of anything that you're going through, or whether that's just your personality, is that not everyone's the same. And actually, whereby, as I said, you could literally be your most annoying in quotation marks by your own words, self to me, and I'd never find it annoying. That's probably not likely for everyone. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people. I'm sure your boyfriend probably loves you being annoying to the point where, it's not exactly. And the same for me. Like, you know, I know that B has a limit, and so I have to. Do you know what I mean? Like, she also loves it, but then there's a point where, I mean, even literally yesterday, Millie, she looked at me and she was like, "Babe, I've got a really busy day today. I'm not keen for this." And I'm like, I don't take offence to that, not at all. Yeah. I'm like, good for you for, like, telling me, because actually then I will just be like, do you know what, I'll do a bit. I'll still do a bit, but just not as much as I would want to, please.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be on my best behaviour.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, even just catering it or doing it to someone else. Oh, wow. I'll tell you after the podcast who that was who was calling. I can't tell you because it's a surprise and I don't want anyone to know, but it's very funny. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, but no, I think, as I say, I think that's important, and I think, like, yeah, I think. Well, anyway, I think a lot of things, please. But anyway, so what I was going to go into with that was, did you want to discuss any of the things that you were bullied about or anything like that?
So, what happened, and like how I say it's bullied, is I basically was singled out, and more for me in the sense of my reactions, but like these boys,
Can I stop you there, Millie? Can I stop you there? Can I stop you there? Because I don't think that's fair on yourself. I don't think that's fair. And I think for anyone that is listening that might be getting bullied, I think that's a point that everyone that's bullied probably says. That because everyone tries to react a certain way and they're like, well, actually the way I reacted made them do it more. No. Like, that's a normal human reaction.
Nice. But basically, like, one of the things which annoyingly any of the listeners, you'll have to do it to yourself, but this one lad used to put his hand up to my face where he could probably feel my breath but not go any closer, and would just wiggle his fingers around my face and little stuff like that, and just like antagonize me. I was very dyslexic and wouldn't want to, but I was very keen to learn. I remember sitting in the front of chemistry with Mr. Lang, I think it was his name. But anyway, I used to love learning because I wanted to be better, because I struggled. Anyway, and like I'd answer any question and it'd be the sort of laughing or just like really reminding me or trying to remind me that I was not cool or I had something that was wrong or I was weirdo or I stood out or whatever. And that's back to like where your year or people that weren't in my year would make me not feel like that, because they were normal. They just talked to me like a human being, and it was like that. Anyway, and then there was one time where I went to a revision course at what was going to be my new school, or what was my new school, and this lad just erupted the whole dining room in this revision course of the school I was about to attend. So I wanted to make a good impression and just started going, Ricky, as I walked in, because I had like a fiery temper, and I just was like, it's just that singling out feeling of there was something wrong with me, and I just didn't understand it. I didn't understand what I was doing wrong, because I was only being myself. And I don't know what I'd say to myself now, if that was now. Maybe just like, And it does annoy me because my mum used to do it, and sorry, mum, but just ignore them doesn't work. Like, growing up, you can't just ignore the boy in the year who's like getting everyone to chant at you or getting everyone to laugh at his jokes when they're at you. And it's like, it's back to that, like, I should just ignore him, and I've got better friends around me. And you need to appreciate those. It's definitely quality over quantity of friendships. But I look back now, and funnily enough, if he ever listened to this, he saw me in a club a few years after school, and I was like, mate, you don't know what you've done to me. And I'm 29 years old, and I still hold on to it. But he bought me a bottle of vodka, and it came over to the table, and that was a gesture. And I kind of look at it, and I'm like, you don't know what anyone else is going through. Like, he might have been insecure about the way, I don't know, I'd hate to say it, but like, do you know what I mean? He might be insecure about something and took it out of me, which is so not right. But at the same time, it's like, well, I just wish everyone, I'm actually wearing socks that say stay kind. There's a charity over here. But it's just like, you never know what anyone else is going through. Just like, he obviously didn't need to be nasty or do any of this stuff, but he did. And it's, something that I still hold on to. But I struggled at that school, and then like trying to get my foot in the door because the cool kid was like singling me out. People were a bit like hesitant to be my mate, and I had good mates there, but from that day I was like, from like when it got bad, I was like, I need to get out of here, almost a running away situation, because there was, like you say, it's like that perimeter that you can't get out of a school like the schools that we went to. I just went to a school with a bigger ground. Yeah. Stupid thing to say.
I mean, that's hard to listen to, if I'm honest. It's really hard to listen to because that's the whole point, really. Like, that's why it's a shock. The reason why it's a shock to me today, and it's a shock to me from even looking back, is because you hid it so well. And actually, to the masses, I think most people who would meet you, even at school or now, I guess, would say, wow, like, how is this person getting bullied? Because she's cool, man. She's just like, she is herself. And that's the point. That's all I ever saw you at school, was yourself. But you don't...
That's what I might have struggled with as well, because I wasn't able to do... I love helping, and I love being there for people, and almost like I would like fight like people off and whatnot, and try and make them be my mate and try and help them and whatnot. And he just had this overriding coolness that people would want to go towards him because they didn't want to go against the cool kid. Or like, there was a girl in the year above that was nasty as well, and she had that power at school almost. But I remember my dinner at school that I went to there. We used to be olive oil, balsamic vinegar, and bread, because that was all I could get out of the dining hall. Because they're really strict at schools like that. You have to keep the food in the hall. So I used to have to like sneak it in my blazer, but yeah, it was horrendous. Because now I'm at 29 and I've been diagnosed with social anxiety, which, as you say, I don't think many people would be able to
not at all
believe. But like, big social situations I'm like, right, how can I play the funny person, or who am I going to speak to, or I almost don't have that I now have better self-belief, but growing up I didn't have that self-belief that I was able to bring something to the table. But growing up, you learn that everyone's got something to bring to the table, whether they're bringing it or clearing it, do you know?
Yeah, this is what... Yeah, that's such a wonderful point. Whether they're bringing it to the table or clearing it, that's such a wonderful point. I think I think on a sort of side note, I wanted to say that that's important because actually the people that I find have gravitated towards being my favourite people are actually the people who are probably in